Let's do something fun. Let's learn how to play the singing bowls. In this case we have one large one and one smaller one. The larger ones they make the deeper sound, the smaller ones they make the higher pitch sound. These are the professional ones from the Tibet, the more expensive ones. And here we have the hammer or the stick with leather, so it's not completely vegan or vegetarian. Could be also synthetic leather, but or rubber or any other kind of hammer or musical instrument that is softer and hard on the other side. There are various ways to hit the singing bowl. It's possible to make mistakes like this one. So it makes like a high pitch sound. The better way to hit the singing bowl is to swing the hammer from the side and kind of brush the edge, so the energy is transmitted softly into the metal and the metal can vibrate and transmit the energy more equally and not without and not in the massive like an eruption of energy. So it can transmit slowly and it can emit the sound more equally. Once again, let's repeat. Let's say we hit it just from the side, just like that, like we would hit something with a hammer. Or we slightly brush it at the edge. It also takes a few tries to aim. Sounds more softer, more equalized. Let's try that on the smaller one. The smaller ones, the smaller singing bowls, you have to hit them slightly sharper, so it doesn't brush. It's also possible to hit them with a touch, like a soft touch. To avoid the mistakes, it's easier to just brush them slightly. Okay, now comes the part where there's also the change of sound comes also from the point where you hit the singing bowl. The energy of the hit, it gets transmitted from one point to the other directly in a straight line. It is possible to change the frequency by hitting the singing bowl in two or three different points. Let's say we hit once at this point and then at 45-degree angle. So there is a kind of an echo. Or we hit it slightly at this point and at this point, slightly narrow, slightly nearer together, so the energy will travel and crisscross, and then it will create a harmony or will create a resonance. There is like a resonance, two sounds in one. Let's try that again on the smaller one. Okay, how to correct mistakes. Let's say you made a mistake. You just hit it too hard. So you take a finger and you brush it from the bottom to the top. So the sound becomes softer. If you make a mistake, so it reduces the volume of the frequency. Okay, the singing bowl is not completely uniform, it's not perfect, and this is why it creates very interesting sounds. So some parts of the edge are narrow, some parts are more thick. The narrower ones, they will create a high pitched sound, and the thicker parts, they will create a deeper sound. Or in this case, the narrow part of the edge. And the thicker part of the edge. Also, the cameras and the recording equipment cannot record the full range of the singing bowls, because the microphones, they are not designed for this. The singing bowls, they have a lot of lower frequencies and a lot of higher frequencies. That's why it's always better to hear it in live performance. Okay, let's do the next one. So the hammer, it has two sides. One, the softer one with the leather for hitting or brushing it slowly. You can also use something like a rubber hammer that is used for drums. So the larger singing bowls, you can create a resonance vibration. When there is some vibration introduced, you can increase the energy of the vibration by brushing the edge. At first softly, and when the vibration vibrates harder, you press a little bit harder to sustain the connection. And now it starts to vibrate too much, so you cannot sustain the connection. And at that one point, you have to exit. So you have to decide which point you exit. At the highest point, you exit. Once again, let's introduce a little bit of vibration. There is a little bit of vibration, and now let's introduce the energy into the vibration. And wait for the exit point. So when it becomes too much, you have to exit. Otherwise, it will create a very... Let's try what it will create if you don't exit. So it's not as pleasant as before. It's not exactly music, it's just a vibration and sound waves. But what if you exit? If you just control the energy of the vibration, and then you exit. It creates this echo resonance, which is more like music. the smaller singing bowls, if you want to create this resonating vibration, you have to use the polished edge of the hammer, because it doesn't work with the software. So you introduce a little bit of vibration and you start slowly. It's kind of a sand sound, a little bit as if there is a sand or waves or some kind of a scratching. And it will start to think in a higher pitch. You have to also wait or listen when it starts to vibrate too much. You also feel it in the hand. So you have to wait, or you have to select your exit point very well. With the soft one it doesn't work. Okay, next step is listening. Now that you know all of the possible methods to create a sound, you can also hit it like from the bottom a little bit. It introduces a lower kind of vibration, lower sound. Higher at the top, lower at the bottom. Different hammers will produce a different, slightly different sound, softer, harder, high pitch, low pitch. But this one, the traditional one from Tibet, with a little bit of leather and wood at the other side. It has to be also polished. When it's more polished, it's nicer. It just sounds nicer. At the larger singing bowls, it's also possible to use this side, but it creates this kind of scratching or scratching effect and a very different sound, more high pitch. And the softer part creates a more low pitch vibration. And this is how you hold it. You hold it between two fingers, so it's kind of flexible. It doesn't hit too hard. And one finger to control the direction. And you aim like 1 or 2 times or 3 times for the aim. Okay, let's go to the basics of frequency transmission in physics. So if this one is going to vibrate, this is going to pick up the energy through the air, and it also starts to vibrate with the same vibration, very small vibration. It will have a resonance vibration. With these resonance vibrations, it's possible to create a sound that would be impossible to create with just one singing bowl. So you always hear for the interplay, for the play, interchange of energy, interchange of vibrations. And if you hear that one becomes kind of weaker, you introduce a little bit of more energy by hitting. So it's the interplay of vibration of the air. So once you understand that there are two frequencies, and they have to play together, they have to intermix to create the resonance that is more harmonious. They have to wait once one frequency fades out, you introduce the second one. If this one fades out, you introduce a next one. You can have probably hundreds of singing bowls, but you always have to wait once the frequency fades out. When it fades out now, you introduce the next one. One, two, three. In case you are impatient or just trying things out, experimenting, you can hit it many times and you will understand it just doesn't work with the singing bowls. It's not the instrument for this, it's not the drum. The beauty of the sound of the singing bowl is in the interchange of vibrations. So I have to play with that. Different instruments have a different style of playing. The singing bowls are much better if you let them play, if you let them think. If you hit them and if you hit them again, it kind of changes or destroys the initial vibration. The range of sound and the range of vibration and the fading of the vibration is better if you just let it think without any additional energy or any additional touch. Okay, now let's do one example of the interchange of the sounds and vibrations that you can create. The more you play with them, the more you learn and feel how to play them. It's also possible to hit it in the direct angle or slightly brush in a curved direction. So the direction of the movement can also change the sound, because the energy will travel around more. It will travel more around if you hit it slightly like in a curved movement. So the energy will travel slightly to this edge and it will travel around and create a traveling sound. If you hit it directly, it will just resonate from one point to the other point. Also, the best way to learn is to observe the more advanced people who play it, to observe their movement, what they do, how they do, and the style of music of the playing style of the singing bowls. It highly depends on the personality. If the person is impatient, is just gonna hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. Or if the person has no musical background or no ear to hear it, it will be a different example. So you have to find your own best, your kind of a guru or teacher whom you look up to. I have the low sound, and let's introduce a little higher frequency. The low one and the higher one. So the interplay of the frequencies, it kind of creates this space effect, some kind of dream, meditation, paradise, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. For some reason the brain likes it. People also use it for the musical therapy, for medicinal purposes. It does require a lot of sessions to kind of change the state of the health, but it works. Within 5 sessions, people kind of become more aware, more acute to sound, to rhythm. They start to introduce the more relaxed patterns into their life. It's also very useful to kind of tune in into vibration and let it fade. It introduces patience and clarity. One additional thing, the singing bowl have to be placed at something that doesn't transmit vibration. In this case is a packaging material that doesn't transmit any vibration. Let's say I hit it, it doesn't transmit sound. It's a sound dampener, so the vibration will only travel to half, it will never travel to that. So in this way the energy will stay in the singing bowl and it will vibrate in the singing bowl. To remove the friction sound of the movement of the singing bowl on the top surface, I just use paper, thick paper, which will remove the friction sound. Without the paper it will sound like plastic and metal rubbing against each other.
final secret to the end of the universe is that there is someone playing the singing bowls and creating the waves of change for us all.